everybody, and welcome to this live broadcast with Wild Ginger Running. I'm Claire and I'm here today with Beth Pascall, who's sponsored by Salomon, and she's going to be taking all of your questions. So I'm just going to roll the credits now and then we'll be back with the first question for Beth. Awesome, so we're back now and I've just got the first question for Beth here. So I'll just introduce her as well just beforehand. So Beth was fourth lady in the UTMB and she just made a record on the Cape Wrath Trail with Damian Hall over winter unsupported, so absolutely fantastic, very used to long distance running. But first of all, just to set the scene a bit here, Beth, how did you first get into running? How did you start?
I don't remember ever not running. So I think I remember, starting off with doing cross country races at school, and I was naturally quite good at it then, before anyone does any formal training. So I did cross country at school and athletics. I used to run the 800 and 1500 and was not I was good at it, but never anything particularly special, And then I went to university and I was a lightweight rower at university actually, and I did that to quite a high level. And then when it turned out that I couldn't train at that level whilst in my later on at uni, when I had to be working a bit harder and not training like a full-time athlete, so I quit rowing and then started running again as something I could easily fit in with a busy uni schedule, I guess. It's just easy and get out the door really quickly. So I started running again, and I guess at that point I consciously made a decision that I didn't want to ever be competitive at it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I think I decided, I think when I was rowing, I almost got to the point where it was quite an unhealthy relationship with it, in that it's a very elitist sport, and I think when you train with other people who are taking it really seriously, it starts to take the fun out of it a bit. So I decided I wanted to run for fun, and I never wanted to do it seriously. And then I don't know, I guess I read a few books and I learned a bit about ultra running and then just had a go, and again I was naturally quite good at it, and then just went from there, I suppose.
Do you think the rowing training helped then with the running?
Yes, definitely, but in the grand scheme of things that was only for maybe 3 years of my life, but I've always been quite active. My parents have a farm, so I think even when I was, as soon as I could walk, I was running around chasing sheep. And so I think that probably counted for more, just being generally active and doing loads of different sports at school as well. So that, probably more that, to be honest. But certainly, any form of endurance sport is going to help. So, I think I learned a bit about the mindset of being an athlete from rowing, because obviously at school I never took anything particularly seriously, but I did take the rowing quite seriously. So I learned a bit about, how to train in general, and there's lots of principles that you can get from any endurance sport that can translate across to ultra running, I suppose.
Ah, that's really interesting. So what kind of things did you take across then from the more serious rowing people?
Well, it's just basic training principles, different training intensities and how to training by using your heart rate and lactate and periodization as well, and strength training, I guess. So just, nothing particularly advanced, just the basic training principles, I guess, that I didn't fully understand before. But there's still a lot I don't understand. Still a lot I don't know. But yeah, it certainly helped in lots of ways. Yeah.
Fantastic. And so some of my audience members have done a little bit of research. They've looked on your blog and they've seen this huge list of races, which is absolutely fantastic. And Guy Greatorex in particular, he says there's not many results outside a top 10. So he said, what's your secret? Like, what sets you apart?
Oh, that's a difficult question. I don't know. I guess I guess I had good results from the start just because I had that endurance base, and I've always, I've never like stopped running for a long period of time. So I think it's why I had good results from the start. But I have had lots of results outside the top 10. That's not quite true. Sometimes, maybe I only put the good ones on the blog. I do make mistakes and I do have bad races, like anybody. So yeah, I probably just don't include them.
Yes, yeah. Well, if you're writing a CV, you're not going to put all the
all the ones
16th in. Yeah, wherever. Yeah. Oh, well, that explains it all then. So John Gardner's got a question too, because you're a doctor, you're a paediatrician, but he seems in awe of the fact that you train every day, because we all know doctors are really busy. How do you fit that in?
Well, I don't train every day.
Oh, really?
No. So I try and be realistic with it, and I do have rest days on days where I know that by training I'm going to significantly cut into sleep time. I'm trying to be good and have more sleep and not get up before 4:30.
Wow.
So I don't run every day. I do have rest days on long work days, and I just try and not. So I went through a phase of trying to train at every hour of the day, like do anything to try and get a run in, even if it was half an hour at 10 o'clock at night or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm trying to be a bit more sensible and think about just being consistent over a long period of time rather than not sleeping much and trying to train and then getting sick more often.
Yeah, because if you don't sleep enough, then that has a really negative impact on training. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. And I get ill quite often, mainly because I work with virally children and babies. So yeah. I think, for me, it's about not being, just trying to be realistic and train consistently without doing extreme things. But I do get ill and I do have rest days, and I don't think my training's anything exceptional. Certainly volume wise, it's there's plenty of people who do a lot more than me. Yeah.
But still in the top 10, so that's good news for us all. We don't have to train too much. Yeah. And so you must have quite a busy job. What motivates you to get out, like at the end of the day or early in the morning?
Well, I think I always feel better if I run, like always. So, and most of the time I enjoy it. I guess about 95% of the time I enjoy it, which, I think having a goal in mind and things helps. But if you don't enjoy the actual training, then you'll never do it. It's hard if you have a goal race that's 6 months away. It's difficult for that to motivate you every morning to get out of bed and run. So yeah, I just I enjoy it, and also I have a dog that needs exercising.
Ah, that's a good one.
So yeah, that helps too.
Yeah, so everything helps, and you just really love it. What do you love about running on trails?
It's a really difficult question. I don't actually know the answer, and every time someone asks me, I probably say a different thing.
Cool. What are you going to say this time?
Well, obviously, I like being outside, and I like being in the mountains. I like breathing in the fresh air, but also I quite enjoy. So I think maybe that's the reason. But then I also enjoy doing like a really hard interval session in the dark on a road as well. So maybe the whole being outside and being thing isn't actually true. So I don't really know the answer, but I just enjoy it, and it's something I need to do. And if I don't do it, then I'm a miserable person to be around.
Yeah, that's funny that you said that, because we've got some comments coming in on the live chat that people's Kurt Steed says that he is crabby, and if he's crabby, his wife says, why don't you go for a run? I'll just add that to the broadcast there. And Kurt wants to know as well from the live chat, does Beth have a general frame of reference for mileage per week, or is it more open based on what you're doing in your job?
Yeah, so every week is different. But I would say that so my training is periodized to some extent. So at this time of year, I'm actually doing quite a lot of intensity, but a low mileage. Mm-hmm. But when I'm closer to big ultras in the summer, I'll probably be. I think last summer I did a handful of weeks that were sort of 100 to 120 miles. So I would build up to that. But then a lot of that volume would be easier miles. But at the moment, it's more intensity, so I don't need to do the volume. So it does change from week to week, and it's completely dependent on what shifts I'm working and stuff. But in general, be much higher towards a big ultra. Whereas at the moment, I think I'm doing a 50 miler at the end of April, and that's sort of the first. Before then, I'm just doing shorter races, so I don't need to do big mileage.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's really good. So that's mileage. And then we had a question from Vince Coyne that's just come through as well. He says, what do you do after a bad race? Do you analyse it, or do you put it behind you?
I think it's important to analyse it, definitely, because sometimes it's really obvious, what's gone wrong, and sometimes it's not. And for example, I had a really bad race at Lavaredo this year, and immediately afterwards I finished, but I was basically walking for the second half. Just felt terrible, and I couldn't quite work it out. And even at the end or the next day, I didn't quite know what had gone wrong, and then chatted to my coach about it and stuff. And then by thinking about it more, like a week later or 2 weeks later, it was completely obvious to me what had gone wrong.
Oh, really? What happened?
I think it was the altitude, which I didn't really think about beforehand. And now I can think back about races where that's happened before, and I again didn't quite know what had gone wrong. But yeah, by thinking about it, it makes perfect sense. So yeah, definitely have to think about it, and then move on. Both is the answer.
Yes, yeah. So don't kind of dwell on it and beat yourself up about it, but definitely be aware of what.
Yeah, I mean, think about it constructively. Yeah, definitely. I mean, most people, there's always going to be a reason why you have a bad race, and even if you give up, then there's a reason why you gave up, and you have to think about what you can do to prevent that happening again. But DNFing is not always a bad thing. I don't think it's something people should finish race under all circumstances, whatever. So in hindsight, in that Lavaredo, I probably should have stopped. But we have this mindset where we just have to finish regardless.
Yeah.
But actually the smarter thing would to have been stopped and then recover quicker, and then be back to full training after a couple of days and have a better training block building up to the next race.
Yeah, that's so true.
It's difficult. Sometimes it's harder to stop than to carry on.
Yeah. So, unless you just fancied a nice walk, because it's a beautiful place. So, I mean.
Yeah. Yes. But it's still, that was my decision to try and enjoy it. But it's difficult to enjoy it even if you're in a nice place, if you're like having a really, really hard race.
Yeah, yeah.
I did enjoy bits of it, but yeah, not all of it.
Yeah, I can totally identify with that though, because I quit on the Cape Wrath Ultra. I don't know if you know about that. I did a talk about that just recently on the channel, and I totally agree with you. I don't think that you should have to complete everything under duress. It's no big deal. No one cares apart from you.
No, I mean, yeah, all ultra runners have either DNF'd or will DNF at some point, and yeah, it's just a matter of time, really. Like, people are going to make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. Even, the really top runners will DNF from time to time, because that's just the nature of it.
Yeah. Well, look at Killian, Jim Walmsley and Zach Miller on the UTMB this year. They all dropped out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to complete any of these things, you have to take risks, especially if you want to do it at the top level. There's always going to be risks you have to take. So, yeah, sometimes it won't go the right way, and that's just it, really.
Yeah.
So just accepting that and not worrying about it too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be my advice.
That's a really good answer. That's great. And just to kind of segue from like DNFing to maybe doing stuff that isn't running, Guy Greatorex really wants to know about the bikes that are behind you, and I do too. So I'm presuming that you do a lot of cross training then?
So not loads, actually. I'm not doing any cycling at the moment. So in the summer, when I'm doing a higher volume and the weather's nice, I wouldn't go out in the rain. And the weather's nice, I do some road cycling just to supplement running. So I've got a few more bikes as well. These are just the indoor bikes. The dirty bikes, mountain bikes, are outside. So
are they both yours, those bikes?
No, only one of them.
Yeah.
That one on the
Yeah.
Nice. Yes, I've got a mountain bike, which is good fun as well. But I don't go mountain biking as much as I'd like. But from time to time, get out on a mountain bike, which is good. Yeah.
Yeah, I love a bit of mountain biking as well. Just have to be careful not to fall off and break something.
Well, yes, that is I've got more and more nervous on my mountain bike. I used to be a lot better at it than I am now. But it's one of those things that the more nervous you are, the more likely you are to fall off. Anyway, if you're confident that you're not going to fall off, then you're usually fine. But if you have the brakes on all the time, this is what I found anyway. Then I've got worse and worse. The more I try and avoid getting injured.
Yeah, me too. I thought I was invincible on a mountain bike until I was about 20 or 21 at university, and I fell off and I had a massive injury. I had to go to hospital. Okay. I bashed up my knee, and since then I've just been a massive wuss. So stick to running. I do like
more in control.
Yeah, I do like mountain biking. I'm going this Saturday, so we'll see. We won't fall off. I've just noticed a question here from Tom Avery. He's saying, what makes a bad race? So what would constitute a bad race in your opinion?
It's a good question, because it's not always about the result, is it? I think if I felt like I hadn't raced to my full potential on the day, so if I had if I was fit and went into it feeling good, and hoping to win it, but actually I came 10th, but had a good race, but everyone else was just faster than me on the day, that'd be fine, But if I went into it and lots of things went wrong and I made silly mistakes, then that would probably be a bad race.
Yeah. So it's just like how you feel like you performed, not relative to anyone else.
Yeah. And I guess, the correct answer is probably there isn't no such thing as a bad race, because even the bad races you can learn a lot from, and you learn a lot from the races that go badly than the ones that go well. And definitely, if you go and win a race by like 2 hours, then that's not necessarily a good race. You might have a terrible run, but if you have a good result, doesn't necessarily mean you've had a good race, and you don't learn anything from it. So I think, when I feel like I've raced, done my best and ran to my full potential on the day, regardless of the rest of the field, I guess.
Yeah.
Then I'd feel happy and I'll be satisfied.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with that one. And now we just come on to a question about a little bit about sort of nutrition here with Simon of Wales. He wants to know, with the bigger ultras like 100 milers, he would like some advice on electrolytes, as he usually uses about 500 millilitres to 1 litre of water per hour. Oh, that's a lot. But he wants to know, I think he says he's using diurolite sometimes as well, so he's just wondering how much electrolytes to use with however much water. So yeah, any advice on electrolytes?
Electrolytes aren't something I really stress about too much, I have to say. But then most of the races I do are not in places where it's really hot all the time. So I do take some electrolytes. So I use mainly Spring Energy gels, and they have a electrolyte. It's like a gel that you pour into your water bottle and then mix it with water. But I don't tend to have a specific plan when it comes to electrolytes. I just take some and I just drink to thirst. But it's not something I'm particularly scientific about. I'm a bit more scientific about calories and grams of carb that I take.
Yeah.
But electrolytes, I don't think I need, a certain number of millimoles of sodium or potassium per hour. Energy wise, I tend to aim for about 60 to 90 grams of carb per hour whilst running.
And how do you usually take those? Is it sort of a solid form, or do you use a lot of gels? What do you
so I use the
take?
Spring Energy gels. So the Spring Energy gels are different to the normal sugary maltodextrin gels, because they've got more complex carbohydrate in them. So they're basically rice based, with a bit of fruit, and some of them have some peanut butter in there, so a bit of protein and fat as well. And you get a more sustained release of sugar, rather than you don't get the big troughs and spikes you do of your insulin levels whilst using maltodextrin. So I found using more sugar-based gels, even if I'm taking the right up to 90 grams an hour, I still manage to get energy dips on that, which it doesn't quite make sense to me. But I guess your blood sugar levels are running quite low, and then as soon as you take a gel, and then 10 minutes later, you used it all up, and there's nothing. It's all absorbed in your stomach and used immediately. Whereas if you had a more complex carbohydrate, then that's going to give you a more sustained release of energy. So I found them really, really helpful. And I wouldn't want to use anything else now.
Yeah. So do you ever take any sort of solid food, or are you running too fast to get it down?
In a long race, I would take some solid food. And say UTMB, for example, I'll eat whatever there's at the checkpoint. So I'll have a few mouthfuls of pasta or soup here and there. Yeah, just whatever's going, really.
Yeah. Do you follow any sort of special diets? Like, are you vegetarian or vegan or anything?
I am. I don't know. There's no way to describe how I eat. I'm like say 90% vegan, but I do eat eggs because I have my own chickens. So I eat eggs. Yeah. And I do occasionally. I eat. Say on the Cape Wrath Trail, I didn't eat meat, but I ate. It's quite difficult to get enough calories in. With calories with weight, without having some form of dairy, I guess. Basically, all the meals we ate were the calories were made up of dried cream powder, basically. Otherwise, there's no way of getting the calories in. So there are occasions where I do eat. I'll eat whatever. I try and avoid meat. But there are occasions where I eat wherever. And then occasionally I have, say at work, I might have a bit of milk in a coffee occasionally, just to make sure I don't completely. So if you completely cut out dairy, then you reintroduce it, you can have problems digesting it, and you can become intolerant to it. I don't want to become intolerant to it because there might be occasions where I need it.
Yeah.
So,
or you haven't got anything else.
Yeah, like in a race or whatever. So yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, so I don't know how to describe how I eat, but that's it.
Yeah, so like 90% vegan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you eat any fish as well? Because I know some people.
I don't.
No fish. Yeah. And have you always eaten that way, or is it just something you've developed? You know, like Scott Jurek, he wrote that whole book about how he sort of gradually went from eating loads of meat and shooting things in the forest to eventually being plant-powered. How was it for you?
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, as my parents have sheep and cattle, and grew up eating meat, definitely. And then I guess I eat a lot less at university because you don't really eat meat at university because it's too expensive.
Yeah, it is expensive.
And then I did go properly vegan maybe 6 years ago, and then did that for a couple of years, and then then went back to having a more normal diet, and then more recently, well, I don't know, maybe, I don't quite know, I've been in and out of it basically over the last 6 years, I guess.
Yeah.
But half my family are vegan now, actually, and lots of my friends are.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, and even my parents having, my dad loves his cows, but he also has got into, he wants to plant a field of broad beans now. He's going on about because loads, like half my family are vegan. So yeah, and they love like cooking vegan meals and all of this. So yeah.
Yeah, it's becoming a lot more easy to eat like vegetarian and vegan these days, which is always nice. Like considering all the information that we get about the potential impact on the planet and things like that. But then I just went to the shop and bought a load of vegan things the other day, and it's still covered in plastic. So I'm like, am I really helping?
Yeah, there's lots of it's difficult. It's difficult to be perfect. I do lots of things that are bad for the environment, and I don't want to. So yeah, I contradict myself in lots of ways. But,
yeah, me too. Yeah, flying, etc. Yeah. We just got a question on the veganism actually. Craig Brown would like to know: is your family vegan for health reasons or for ethical reasons?
A bit of both, I suppose.
Yeah.
A bit of both. Half and half, I would say.
Yeah. And
I mean, some of them are just ethical reasons. But my sister and her husband and things, it's probably both.
Yeah.
So
a plethora of reasons. Awesome.
Yes.
So we've talked about food and we've talked about a bit of training. What I really want to talk about is the Cape Wrath Trail as well, because that was just so impressive. In the middle of winter, unsupported, you and Damian, who was on the channel a couple of weeks ago, ran like 400 kilometres along the Cape Wrath Trail, and you set a record. And I just want to know a few of your little stories from it. Like, have you got any best times, worst times, that kind of thing? Just take us through a few of the highlights.
Well, the worst time, I would say, was before we'd even set off. So we got up there the day before, and it had just rained all day.
Oh no.
It was just torrential rain, and we'd go outside for like 30 seconds and be freezing and soaking wet. And we saw some of the rivers that we were going to have to cross, and we were like, Jesus, like this is just not going to happen.
Oh no.
And Matt and Ellie, who were doing off Summit Fever Media, who were doing the filming, had spoken to this gamekeeper who had essentially said that there was a particular river called the River Ling, and he said that if we were to cross it tomorrow, which was going to be when we started, then they should bring body bags to pick up all the pieces.
Oh my goodness. Slightly worrying.
So yeah, he said he wouldn't cross that river. It'll be over our heads, and that we wouldn't be able to cross it for another like 5 days.
Oh no, 5 days.
And there's a environmental, it's a Scottish Environmental Protection Agency website, I think it is, that can show you river levels for certain rivers.
Yeah.
And this particular river had risen from half a metre to 1.9 metres just over the course of a few hours.
Oh no.
So we were like, yeah, this isn't going to happen. Like, we could start and then we will get stuck and have to call it off. And at this point, we didn't really think that delaying the start was an option, because there was no ferry to get to the start on a Sunday. We had to start on a Saturday.
Oh, I see.
But we made some inquiries and arranged for this guy with a boat to take us across on the Sunday. And actually, it was fine. But it was, the worst time was that day before, when we were just, just
touch and go, like, is this going to even
demoralising.
happen?
With almost, thought about calling the whole thing off. So.
Oh no, yeah. And were you like really up for it? Like, were you out for 4 days? Were you?
Yes,
how did you?
5 days.
Yeah. How did you feel about the whole idea of doing the record and being out there for 4 days?
Really excited, actually. When we actually set off, the weather was nice and the river levels were coming down. We were still nervous about the river levels because they'd only just started to come down, but they're still way higher than we would be able to cross. So we just had to hope that by the time we got to the bigger rivers, they would have come down. Just really excited because I don't know that corner of Scotland at all. So it was like a proper adventure, just going to see what was out there, I guess. And I don't think I've really done a lot of the things. For example, the spine race, I vaguely knew the route beforehand, and various other things. I mainly know the route, but it was just like a proper adventure. So it was good fun.
Yeah. So how did you navigate then?
Well, we didn't really navigate. We did cheat and used GPS.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, it would have been a completely different challenge if we did the whole thing with map and compass.
Yeah,
because
harder.
It was dark most of the time, and half the time there's no trail. So, even the best navigators in the world would have found it hard, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. I've been there. I know what you mean.
and normally, I don't use GPS very often, and I usually like to use map and compass. But doing that when you're sleep deprived as well and trying to think about all the other things like eating and keeping warm, it would have been a completely different challenge.
Yes. Yeah.
So we used GPS, and we did use the map as well, but predominantly relied on the GPS. We also got lost not lost, but we went off course just because you just stop concentrating sometimes.
Yeah.
Basically.
Just chatting, taking some video.
Yeah.
What GPS watch do you use then?
So, I have it on. The Sunto 9, which it's very pretty, isn't it?
Yeah, it's lovely. I don't know how you keep that watch strap so white. My orange one's gone faded already.
Oh, really? No, it seems to be very white. I worried about that, but it's it's fantastic.
Is that the latest one then from Sunto?
Yes. It's good because the battery life is ridiculous.
Oh, how long does it last? I'm looking for something that lasts longer, because my Garmin, I used a Garmin Fenix S on the Cape Wrath Ultra, and it only lasted for 9 hours on the navigation mode, and that just wasn't enough for my 15-hour day.
No, this lasts 120 hours.
Wow, what, on navigate mode?
Yes, yeah.
Really?
So, yeah, it's insane.
How much does that cost? Do you know?
No.
Oh.
No.
Yeah. Beth is sponsored
I'm an ambassador for
Sunto and Salomon. So
I imagine it's about £500, but I don't know for sure.
120 hours. So on navigation mode, it lasts for 120 hours. Wow. Okay, I've got to get me one of them then. Is it the Barrow 9, or is it just called the Sunto 9?
It's the Sunto 9 Barrow. Got.
Yeah.
But there are two, and I think there's just the Sunto 9 has the battery life just without the barometer.
Okay. Yeah. Fab.
It's also because it has optical heart rate, so it'll take the heart rate from the wrist, which is really useful.
Yes. Yeah. I can't abide those chest strap things.
Yeah. And it's good. I find it the most useful thing I find it for is tracking sleep as well.
Oh, really? It tracks sleep?
With your heart rate, and
Ah.
movement as well.
Ah. So you
which
wear it all the time then?
well, I don't wear it to work because I have to be bare below the elbows. But yeah, the rest of the time. Yeah.
And hopefully you're not asleep at work.
No. Try to avoid it.
Yeah, I'm only joking. That's brilliant. So that is cool. And so we've done a bit of the navigation. And Catherine Roberts has got a question about blisters because she's upping her distance. So she wants to know how you avoided blisters on the Cape Wrath Trail and any tips in general for avoiding them.
I have no idea how I avoided blisters, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Because we had wet feet the whole time.
Yeah.
And we didn't change our socks. So I was worried about blisters. I'm normally not prone to blisters, but I was worried because I've never run for 5 days without changing my socks before.
What shoes were you wearing?
I was wearing the Salomon X Alpine. So they've got this the built-in gaiter.
Ah, okay.
They're blue and black.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were good. But I don't know what I did to prevent blisters. I mean, I'd run in the shoes beforehand and generally have quite tough feet.
Yeah.
You could say like disgusting feet, but I guess it's just from doing a lot of running in general. And being used to the shoes. But yeah, I did pretty much all the things that you should do to get blisters.
Right.
So normally, like I would, change my socks regularly, avoid trying to get grit in the shoes. That's a point actually. I guess because I had the Salomon shoes with the built-in gaiter, that you don't get grit into your socks. So that was probably a big factor.
Does the gaiter come up above the sock line then, or does it come around the sock?
It comes above the sock.
Oh, and then does it kind of clamp around your leggings?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds really good. And so that's the Salomon XA Alpine. And do they have the quick lacing system like all the other Salomon shoes?
Inside the gaiter, yeah.
Then you zip inside the gaiter. Oh, okay. That sounds really good. Yeah. Okay. Well, this is great gear tips.
Yeah. So if you didn't have them, but any form of gaiter to stop if you're doing a run where you're likely to get grit and sand and dust in your shoes, is good. If you can't change your socks regularly, then that would be a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. So have you ever got any blisters?
Yes. I'm trying to think I think I did probably get a couple of tiny blisters on the Cape Wrath Trail, but nothing that often I do a race and then find I have a couple of blisters, but things that I didn't even notice, when I was actually running.
Yeah.
But I don't remember ever having terrible blisters.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Oh, you're really lucky. I get really bad ones.
A pair of heels at a wedding or something.
Yes.
Probably they're the times where I get blisters.
Yeah, that's true. And when you're doing a run of that length, do you tend to stretch afterwards? Because I'm just thinking about preventing injury. So did you do a lot of stretching on the Cape Wrath Ultra, Cape Wrath Trail, or
during it?
Yeah, during it. Or do you stretch after training runs or anything? How does that work for you?
Didn't stretch at all during the Cape Wrath because it was like a race in a way. So we were just running, or we were eating, or we were trying to sleep. So there wasn't really any time for stretching. But I do stretch quite a lot in general. So I normally have a quick stretch. If I go out for a run, I usually do a quick stretch of my hamstrings like immediately afterwards, because they're the thing that gets tight with me. And then I try to sort of in the evening and maybe just before bed, I'll do a bit more of this doesn't happen every night, but a bit more of a sort of stretching, a longer stretching and rolling routine as well. So I stretch most days.
Yeah.
But
that's good.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it doesn't happen. but most of the time it does. And yeah, I don't really know how much it helps. I think stretching my hamstrings immediately after running definitely does help. The rest of it, I don't know, but it makes me feel better if I do it.
Yes.
And it seems to be working okay. So
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it does seem to be working okay, because there was a question earlier about whether you get any recurring injuries, and Vince Coyne wants your tips for injury prevention as well. So yeah, first of all, do you have anything that kind of niggles you ongoing, and what your tips are for injury prevention for normal people?
Yeah, I have a couple of little niggles, but I've never, touch wood, been like properly injured. So I have a Morton's neuroma on my foot, which
that's painful.
Yes, it was at one point, but so it's basically when you get inflammation of the nerve between the usually the third and fourth metatarsal in the foot. And I had that about a year ago, and have just managed it by changing my footwear and icing it regularly and massaging it, and that's sort of settled down. It's still there and I feel it every day, but it's not an issue anymore. And I've had various other niggles, but I would say the most important thing is, as soon as you get like a niggle, don't wait until it turns into something. Don't ignore it, because it's so easy to ignore. And I mean, everyone says this, but it's still so easy to ignore it. And I've done it before, and wait till it develops into something. So as soon as, and pretty much everything, as soon as you get a niggle, if you just stop running and have, a couple of days on the bike or doing some form of cross training, and then gradually start running again, in a methodical way, gradually building up, then you're likely to be okay. I had a bit of tendonitis after the Cape Wrath Trail, and I needed a bit of rest, so it's probably a good thing. But yeah, I just saw a physio, and did some cycling and swimming, and then gradually started running for 20 minutes and 30 minutes and 40 minutes, and gradually built up till I could run pain-free for an hour, and then that was it really. So just be really vigilant and pick up on something as soon as it arises, and deal with it, rather than waiting for it to turn into something serious.
Yes, and keep on with the stretching as well. I'm sure that helps.
Yes, probably does. And massages as well would be great. I have them occasionally, not particularly often, but yeah, that if you can afford it, then the more massages the better, I guess. But stretching and rolling is a cheaper but slightly less effective alternative.
Yeah, and sometimes more painful getting on that roller.
Well, I don't know, massages can be pretty bad.
Depends who you get. Yeah. Fantastic. And I've just seen another training question actually from John Fowler. He says, hello, what percentages of speed or high intensity sessions do you include in your training? He also says good luck this year, so that's very nice of him.
I think I know who John Fowler is. Less more than one. Okay. Hi, John Fowler. I don't know what percentages. I haven't worked this out. I would say 2 months before a big 100 miler, I might do when I'm doing more long runs. I might just keep in one sort of speed session or slightly higher intensity session a week, which is probably only maybe 10% of mileage or less, maybe 10%. Whereas at the moment, I'm probably, and this isn't, by intensity, but by doing speed work, this isn't like intervals or anything. It might just be one run that is sort of a hill rep session, or a moderate pace run on the flat. But now I'm not doing many longer runs, and I'm probably doing a bit more intensity. So probably I might do 2 sometimes 3 slightly more intense sessions a week, I think.
And how long would they last for, those intense sessions?
So, well, it varies. So probably the longest session I'm doing at the moment is up to, I think, a 3-hour moderate run. So it's a sort of comfortably hard, basically, a pace that you can sustain for 3 hours.
Wow.
But that's not easy. But then shorter sessions, so I might do, I was doing a few weeks ago some hill circuits, which are shorter sessions, maybe last an hour or up to 2 hours. And they are basically doing hill reps, but at various points on the hill, you do various other exercises like lunges, squats and all sorts of things, which are hard work. And I don't know, a few other types of... What was the question again? I've forgotten what it was.
What percentages of speed or high intensity sessions do you do in your training?
Yeah, so I think that's basically it. So it varies at different times of the year. And when I'm in full ultra training, it's little, but there's still a bit in there.
Yeah.
But now there's more. Yeah, perhaps, I don't know, 30%.
Yeah. So is it like a case of when you're doing a short session, you're doing a hard session, and when you're doing a long session, you're doing it less intense but just longer? Does it work like that for you?
Yes, although I'd say when I do a 3-hour or maybe 30k like progressive run, then that's still quite a long session and is quite hard. But when I'm in, say, in the summer doing full ultra training and doing my long runs, I might run for 8 hours at a lower intensity. But that doesn't make it an easy session, but it's a less intense session.
Yeah, so sort of balances itself out, because you can't run so fast for 8 hours, so that would make sense.
Sure. But it's still damaging at the end.
Yes,
because it's
punishing. Yes, indeed. Fantastic. Well, that leads us on quite nicely to some advice for somebody who he says it's getting older advice. This is Masood Kalali. He's one of my patrons, and he said, how should a beginner trail runner in their 40s approach running compared to someone in their 20s? So yes, I think what do you reckon about that?
Well, first of all, I say that being in your 40s is not old.
Definitely concur with that one.
That's young. That's like in your prime for ultra running.
He'll be glad to hear that.
I mean, I don't really know the answer, because I am not a coach, and I am not. Yeah, so I'm not in my 40s. But I would say it depends if you've done. If this is getting into sport or being regularly physically active for the first time, or whether you have done a lot of different sports and are generally fit anyway. And I'd say that if you've never been physically active, before you start running, I think it's probably worth seeing a GP and having someone listen to your heart. And it's what people say all the time, but there is actually something in it. And there are various heart conditions that can be. It's still very, very unlikely you have any sort of heart condition, but I think it's something that if you've never been physically active, you should be examined by a doctor before you do lots of intensity. And then, just start gradually and build up really, really slowly. And get a coach, which would help, because I guess you'd be slightly more at risk of getting injured if you're slightly older. But if you do it sensibly, then you should be fine. But yeah, just increase volume really, really slowly.
Yeah. And so would the same thing go for mileage then? Because he's asking about progressing in his mileage. Like, are there any pitfalls or anything that he should particularly pay attention to when building distance? I suppose in your 40s, it's not really old. So just in general, how would you suggest to somebody that they should build their mileage?
Um, well, I guess the general rule is by no more than 10% a week. But saying that, you wouldn't want to start at 10 miles and then be running 100-mile weeks in in 10 weeks time. So really slowly. The slower the better, really, I would say. And as long as you don't have a big goal in mind, and just go on feel. So yeah, if you're getting tired, then do less. If you have any niggles, then stop, back off, and just listen to your body, I suppose.
Yeah. So slowly, because I get a lot of people asking all the time, actually. It's very trendy to do these 50 milers, 100 milers at the moment. And they're all going, oh, can I do one in like 6 months? And I'm like, oh, no, there really is no rush. Just start slowly, do a marathon first, do a 30 miler, do a 40 miler, do a 50 miler, do a 60 miler, then maybe next year do the 100, or maybe in 2 years do the 100. Like, you don't have to rush into these things. So I think people are maybe rushing to do these big long distances, so it's good to hear you say that we should keep it, keep.
I mean, it can
gradually.
still be done. Can still be done if people really want to do it, but the risk is always going to be higher, isn't it? So the quicker you build up volume. So
that's good advice. Okay, so we're coming on now to, I've asked most of the questions now, but we're coming on now to like your future and what is next for you, because we didn't really talk about the UTMB, and you came fourth lady, which was absolutely incredible. So let's just quickly talk about that, and then I'll ask you what's your bucket list race from Catherine Roberts. UTMB, how did it feel to cross the finish line in fourth place? It's just incredible, amazing.
A relief, I guess. Because I knew that I could do it. I knew it was possible. And I'd had a bad race there. I DNF'd the year before. And there's so many things that can go wrong. And it was more a feeling of relief that I'd done everything right and I'd finished and I'd had a good result. So yeah, I was really happy. I thought I thought fourth was possible if I had a good race. So it was pretty cool.
That's amazing. And just in a nutshell, like a really big nutshell, how did you train for the UTMB? What did your weekly mileage look like, or your weekly sessions?
I did some pretty big miles in the few weeks before UTMB. Well, not the few weeks before, the weeks before the taper, I guess. So I did sort of up to 120 miles. I did a few weeks that were up there. I recce'd the course. I went out in July, I think it was, with Damian Hall, Jim Mann and Joe Meek, and we ran it over 3 days. Met up with Shane Benzie out there as well, which was cool. And there were 3 pretty big days, and I respond quite well to high mileage. Quite a lot of mileage, but kept in a bit of intensity as well. And I was lucky that work had been very good, and I'd had quite a lot of. I had 3 weeks off, or 2.5 weeks off before the race. So I went out beforehand and acclimatised. I stayed at altitude for a while because that is I know that I am not good at altitude. Mainly spent time high up and had a good time and just relaxed, I think. I think it made a huge difference just to have a couple of weeks where I was sleeping well, and not rushing around being on my feet all day. And that made a huge difference. I think you don't quite realise in day-to-day life like how busy, for me anyway, like how that level of stress is there the whole time, which I'm just never sleeping quite as well, and I'm never training quite as well, and it's just sort of there. So yeah, having 2.5 weeks out there to chill before the race and acclimatise was really, it's definitely what I needed. So hopefully I can do that again next year. But
yeah. Oh, are you going for it next year then?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. And what are you hoping to do? Improve on the 4th place, or like have you got any specific goals?
Not specific goals. I mean, yes, I guess it'd be good to improve. So this year I was 23 minutes off the lead woman. So, I mean, I guess I could win it, but then that would have to. So the difference between those 23 minutes is all in your head. It's a mental thing. So I think it would be possible, but then at the same time, it depends so much on who else has a good race. So, and there's loads of good women who are going to be there, as is every year. But the lineup is really strong next year, and I could easily run an hour quicker and come like 5th. You just don't know. So yeah, I think it's possible I could win it, but it would depend on how everyone else's race went as well, and I'm not going to be bitterly disappointed if I don't. But yeah, I want to have a strong race. Yeah, definitely.
Going to go out there and give it some welly. Yeah, awesome. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, hopefully I'll get out there and I can support you on the way round as well.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get out there this year. So that's UTMB that you're doing this year. And a question from Catherine Roberts: what's at the top of your bucket list of races to do in the future?
Well, I'm doing Western States this year, and I would say that Western States and UTMB are the races I most want to do, the races that inspire me most and excite me most. So I'm actually, I guess I'm doing them both this year.
That's
after that, I don't know what I'll do.
Yeah, just like lie down for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It was all about trying to get into Western States this year.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm really, really excited for that.
That's so exciting. And when is that one? So when will you start properly ramping up the training for that one then?
It's end of June, so yeah, April, May, June.
Yeah.
I guess.
So that's quite nicely spaced out, isn't it? Like you could do really well at Western States and then recover in time for the UTMB.
Just yeah.
Yeah.
People say they're a bit close together. But Western States is quite a runnable course, so it's more. Plenty of people do say a sort of 70-80 miler that far out from UTMB, and that might take 17-18 hours. And Western States maybe 100 miles, but actually time wise, it's going to be roughly the same.
Okay.
But yeah, so hopefully it'll be okay.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so you won't be able to recce the Western States, will you? Because Kurt Steege wants to know, but based on your recent statement about recceing the UTMB and acclimatising and having a bit of a chill out there, how important do you think it is to recce the course for a big long race like this?
I think it depends. If you want to be competitive, I think it is a good idea. But also, you can do well without it. So yeah, I've had good races on courses that I've never recceed, but if you can, it's always best to do it. But it's not the end of the world. You shouldn't stress about it if you can't. And I mean, I'm very good at getting lost as well in races, so it helps me if I know the course a bit. Hopefully I'll be able to recce. I'm going out to Western States early as well, so hopefully we'll be able to recce. I don't know about all of it, but at least some of it, which will be cool.
Yeah.
Well, not cool. It'll be very hot. So yeah, I think because I've also never been to America before, so it'll be good to.
Exciting.
To if you've run in the Alps, then you can kind of guess what UTMB is going to be like. but because I've never run on trails or anything like that, it'd be good to at least get a feel for what it's going to be like.
Fantastic. Well, everybody on the live chat is super excited that you're going to Western States. There's some people from America watching.
Oh, right.
Kurt Steed says, sounds good. John Gardner says, whoa, Western States, how did you get in? Awesome. Running Ram says, good luck, Beth. And he's put one of those like arm pump things and some like smiley face with the sunglasses on. And yeah, John Gardner says, with the heat and the runnability, etc., the Western States favours the smart, well-prepared and patient athletes like Beth. So there you go. You're going to do well. And Simon of Wales says, big wow on getting into Western States. That's uber cool. But he says, please do come back to the UK post-Western. So yeah, everybody's really enjoyed this chat this evening. I just would like to thank you on behalf of everybody for coming on and giving up all your advice, giving your time up to chat to us. And yeah, everybody says it's been brilliant. They think you're amazing, and everybody, if you want to follow Beth's progress in the Western States this year and the UTMB, then you're on all the social medias. Just let us know what your how we can follow your progress.
I think luckily there aren't many Beth Pascalls or any other Beth Pascalls on any of Twitter, Facebook or social media or Instagram, so I'm quite easy to find.
Yes, brilliant. Guy Greatrex is saying great interview, thanks both. Simon of Wales actually meant back on here post Western, so they want to catch up with you after the Western States to ask you how it went.
Not like, am I going to come home at all?
Yes, I know. I thought he meant that you might stay out there because you've never been before. So yes,
I have booked a return flight actually. But...
I think they make sure of that on the visa, don't they? Yeah. Lots of people seconding that. Tracker Sean, he's put a big thumbs up to you coming back on after Western. John Gardner says, great idea, Simon. He seconds that. So yes, I think the talk has been a resounding success. And yeah, we've been talking for a whole hour now, so I'm gonna close up now. And if you've got any more questions for Beth, I'm sure if you message her on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, then I'm sure you wouldn't mind getting back to people on there.
Yeah, no, sure. Yeah,
and we'll be eagerly following your progress. Was there anything else that you just wanted to say to everybody, like any other bits of advice that you wanted to just give to everybody?
Not really. I'm just really flattered that so many people are watching and are interested in what I have to say. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, we've got over 40 people watching just now, right now, and if it's anything like Damian's chat, then it will go up to at least 1,000 over the next few days. So yeah, Kurt Steed says excellent interview and show today. John Gardner says Beth has been a great guest. Well done again, Claire. Kurt Steed says she has to come back for UTMB. Lol. Running Ram says top evening. Thank you to you both. Arlene M says thanks for this, Claire, and best of luck, Beth. We'll look forward to tracking you. Vince Coyne says this, and Simon of Wales says big thanks to both of you. Great show. So I can see all the comments coming, so I can tell everyone's really enjoyed it. So that is fantastic. So without further ado, I'm going to end the live broadcast, guys. So if you want to be in with if you want to ask all these amazing elite athletes like Beth all your questions, then do sign up to me on Patreon. It's just patreon.com/wildgingerrunning to see what exclusives and advantages you can get from doing that. And and thank you very much to Beth for coming on the show, and we will definitely be in touch after you've done Western States to get all the advice there. So that's fantastic. So I'm just going to end the live broadcast now. We will still be on Skype, but I'm going to start waving goodbye. It's all back to front here, so don't know. So thanks everybody for watching the show, and I will see you next week.